In 2007, William Shatner, along with Judith and Garfield Reeves Stevens, released their 10th and final entry in the Shatner-verse saga called Star Trek Academy Collision Course. The story opens with James T. Kirk, only 17 years old, stealing a car from Starfleet Academy. Once the cops come, they ditch the car, and Kirk winds up in a strip club where he bumps into the then 19-year-old Spock, investigating a black market mystery surrounding the Vulcan compound. Kirk plants evidence of the carjacking on Spock, and they both end up with a choice. Spock can return to Vulcan. Kirk can break big rocks into little rocks at the penal colony in New Zealand, or they can both enlist in Starfleet. What sets this book apart from many of the Shatner-verse books is the gravitational weight given to character development. Instead of the transgalactic narrative of the Captain's trilogy, Collision Course laser focuses the story back down to Earth, giving us a detailed character study of flawed, broken people. 17-year-old Jimmy Kirk hates himself for being alive when so many other kids aren't, for having to run just to stay alive while the screams of murdered children followed him into the woods and his nightmares. Of course, Kirk has no concern for systems or authorities or laws. Where were the authorities when Kodos murdered 5,000 people on Tarsus IV? Kirk knew he should have died with the rest of them. But if he has to live, Kirk knows that the only way to win is to change the rules and always be in control of what those new rules are, and never let the rules of lesser men define you, because what do they know? How could they know? This book works so well, not only as an origin story for James T. Kirk, but as a prequel to Book 3 of the Shatner-verse called Star Trek Avenger. The antagonist of the piece is a henchman of Governor Kodos, now running an interstellar terrorist organization after the massacre at Tarsus IV. Spock's dad, Sarek, is potentially running a black market operation out of the Vulcan compound, causing Spock to break with that half of his heritage which he idolized the most. And it's this exploration of the relationship between fathers and sons that is a complete highlight for me. Joe Kirk is a retired NCO and isn't what you'd call in touch with his feelings, but he keeps showing up for his boys and trying, even if his methods sometimes lack nuance. He blames himself for sending James to the massacre at Tarsus IV, and as a father myself, this rings so true. The guilt he carries, the shame of not being able to stop it, for not knowing what to do for his son outside of just showing up. It's heartbreaking. And I love it so much. It's the Shatner-verse at its peak. This book takes itself so seriously, and I'm so thankful that it does. If I could change just one thing, it would be the ending. James T. Kirk and his friends end up stealing the Enterprise out of space dock and chasing the antagonist through the solar system, ending in a final showdown in a decaying orbit around Neptune. Once we got there, I was less interested because I kept wondering, how did children in basic training steal the Federation flagship? I understand that they did that so Kirk could fall in love with the Enterprise, but the campy fun of a kid's adventure novel feels out of place in a story grounded in post-traumatic stress disorder and survivor's guilt. I wish the finale had been on Earth, and the story just showed Kirk longing to step foot on the Enterprise one day. And honestly, what is most shocking to me is that it's taken me nearly 20 years to get around to reading this book. It came out at the beginning of my own military service, and if I had read it at the time, it would have been one of my favorites. In Collision Course, the focus plot serves the character development, making you care so deeply about new takes on old favorites. It corrects the mistakes of the Captain's trilogy and allows the Shatner-verse to go out on a high. Sadly, there is no published follow-up to Collision Course, as the trilogy was canceled once J.J. Abrams took over the franchise. But what we're left with is the wonderful promise of what might have been.